very good evening to you who is watching us on The Truth, Lies and Politics. My name is Paul Eke, and I do welcome you. To this wonderful Wednesday where we are having conversations that affect you and I. Well, this is a dynamic space where ideas collide, opinions ignite, and perspectives are challenged. And I do invite you into a journey of life-impacting conversations. Well, do follow us on our socials. That is on X, Facebook, and YouTube at Spirit TV UG. And if you have a comment, to alert us or let us know, ask a question, we'll be glad to deal with it. And together, you and I can bridge the gaps in our communities by sharing our thoughts, ideas, and opinions freely. Ladies and gentlemen, I do invite you to the place where the conversation begins. And right before I jump into the conversation and introduce my panel, I have just a quick message for you. Uganda's regional footprint is growing. But what does that mean for the politics back at home? As East Africa's political tide keeps on shifting, we ask ourselves whether the citizens of Uganda are reaping the benefits or are paying the price. We unpack how regional dynamics shape the domestic policies, influence decision-making, and impact on everyday lives. In a world where no nation stands alone, how does interdependence affect Uganda's sovereignty, stability, and strategy? Join our panelists as we unpack this and much more on The Truth, Lies, and Politics on Spirit TV. Stay informed. And I do welcome you back to The Truth, Lies, and Politics. My name is Paul Eke, and I'm glad to host you here on Spirit TV. Well, this week has been a rather sad week for many, but also one that has events that have happened. We're waiting to see what happens to the NUP, rebel MPs per se. And they were told they would face the ultimatums unless they issue an apology. We are waiting to see what happens with that. One of the security members on, Honorable Chagulanji's team, that is Eddie Mutwe, is still, in prison. We're wondering whether that was an arrest or a kidnap. That was in Mukono, and he appeared in the Masaka court just this week. And yes, with a charge sheet. Now, I don't know. I'll pick my guests' thoughts on some of these stories. But I think one that all of us are, impacted are the deaths, the senseless deaths on our roads in the country. We had a YY bus in Buyikwe that caught fire, and several other people in that bus lost lives. We've had several, accidents on Bujuko. We've had several accidents even on Busabala Road. Such a sad situation. Actually, the police report says that we lose about 4,000 lives a year, in Uganda. But it could be more. Those are the ones that are just reported. And we do pray for the families that lose loved ones, and we pray for the comfort and that God will strengthen them. But we do get ready ourselves to jump into a conversation. But just before that, allow me to introduce who is on our panel. Right now, with me in studio is Mr. Charles Romushana, who is a political analyst, but also a former spy. Always glad to have him on the panel here on The Truth, Lies, and Politics. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
The Almighty God of all creation, seen and unseen, known and unknown, and what will never be known, because there is also creation we will never know. So the Almighty God of all that creation is great and exceedingly merciful.
Yes.
I will always remind you, it is Psalms 70 verse 4.
Yes.
Meaning those who have seen God's salvation should always say, shout that God is great. Now, the message I have for you today,
yes, sir.
This is the season in which we are, and the Catholic Church did that reading on Sunday. I will also still remind you, it's not the Catholic Church that wrote the Bible. But it's also very important to follow what the Catholic Church reads. At elevated analysis, then you would question yourself, why this arrangement, why these readings, and what do they imply, etc. Peter and his colleagues hadn't caught any fish. And some gentleman appears and asks them, you young men, have you caught anything? They said, no. He said, okay, cast your nets. I think on the right or left. You will check. And they got a lot of fish. So John, the one he loved most, told Peter, this is our Lord. And John, I think, ran to where Jesus was. This is after resurrection. Then Peter pulled the nets. He said the nets were so full, but they didn't break. If you get a big interest, go and read the number, the meaning of the number. I think in Hebrew, of the number of fish. But the larger issue is, now Jesus had a stove with burning charcoal and fish and bread. When did he prepare them? You see, by the time they didn't have fish, you already had the fish. And he was already roasting fish and had the bread. And remember, he has already resurrected. The Bible does not give us when they were prepared. But what is important, that they were filled. Not only did they eat from their own fish, which they caught, they also ate the fish that Jesus had already prepared. But the larger issue is what Jesus raised with Peter. He said, Peter, you love me. Peter said, yes, I love you. Look after my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Protect my sheep. Peter, do you love? The third time, Peter got angry. You remember? Initially, the woman or the girl, whoever it was, asked Peter, but you were with Jesus. He says, I don't know him. You were with Jesus. I don't know him. On the third time, when the cock alerted Peter for the third round, Peter cried. But on the question of love, Peter got angry. The other one, Peter felt remorse, reconciled, repented, and cried. But this time around, someone asked you 3 times whether you love him, and Peter got angry. Said, okay, you love me, fine. Take care of my sheep. So what does it involve to take Jesus' sheep? Because remember, in the wilderness, there are serpents, there are wolves, there are lions, and in this world of ours, the snake is Satan. So it means it's a war, and Peter had taken an oath to go and die for the sheep. And indeed he died. Wow. So if you love Jesus,
take care.
You take care of the sheep. It means war, and war is Satan.
Yes.
It would involve taking your life.
And involve death. Thank you very much for those sobering words, Mr. Charles Promotioner, and a reminder for us, to always focus on the Lord, who is the author and the finisher of our faith. Charles, before we jump into our conversation, I wanted you to make a quick comment, on I don't know whether to call it a kidnap, I don't know to call it an arrest, I don't know, of, one of the security guards around, or one of the security members on Honorable Chagulanyi's team, and an incident happened, I think a week ago, and then General Muhoozi on his X tells us he's in the basement, he's teaching him a language. I just wanted to and then recently he appears in Masaka being taken into court. I just wanted you to hear your analysis or your thoughts on this whole situation, and Ugandans, are in a place where they're thinking, oh, are we safe, or am I thinking, are we going back to the days where people were picked and disappeared? Yeah, just that before we get into our conversation.
Okay, let me begin with you remember the death of the kidnap and the murder of Susan Magara.
Right? Yes.
Police played for us the voice.
The voice.
Of the
Those are the
guy who was involved in the murder of Susan Magara. You remember that voice? So they kept the voice. The security now has the voice. If that voice was to call you, if there was an interception and that voice calls you and you talked for 30 minutes, then the next day it calls you, you talk for 30 minutes. Now, security will pick you.
You'd be a person automatically become a person of interest.
Absolutely, they will pick you. Now, the questions that are asked are friendly questions.
Even with that voice?
They are friendly. Okay. Because the initial assumption is that you are not with this person in the other murder, but you know the person. Ask, do you know this guy? If you say, I don't know him, how do you have a chat with someone 3 times lasting 30 minutes? Even if the words were not picked. So you cannot say you don't know him. But if you say, yes, I don't know him, but there is something he's asking me. Or you want to involve me in a business, so deal or what? So what is it? He's asking me about this. He's interested in me in this business to do with gold or what. So, okay. Now, can you help us?
Connect all in.
No, to say it. And now you go into setting of operations. So there are experts who will look at you and they say that sincerely, the story you are telling is a correct story. So that's scenario number 1. So you can actually be arrested. You can actually be taken by security, depending on their level of professionalism.
Yes.
Because of, but they are looking for a different case, which is murder, the way it was. Or you could actually be a victim, that this guy is luring you into another murder and you are innocently playing along. Now then let me also give you another scenario. You are monitoring radio communication of rebels, and they within their communication they use a code. Which code here is safe? Okay, let me use your name. There is a code EKI. So EKI1, EKI2, EKI3. Now, so these guys are the security is interested in the code EKI. Then you Chagulani, somewhere at the rally, you say, we are going to remove the dictator, the Rabadaba EKI style. We are going to remove the dictator, the Rabadaba
EKI style.
EKI style. So now it is still a puzzle what the meaning of EKI. Because now it's a code. They are not yet able to break through. But they are picking it technically from an insurgency, and you've used it. Then one of your contacts in Masaka says, we are removing the dictator, Rabadaba X style X3, which is again on air. So when you are 5, security will pick you. But when it picks you, it will not take you on EKI. It will take you on what? It can take you on assault.
It can choose to put whatever it
Yes.
But
so
in the back,
but without alerting you,
yes,
that
this
it's
is
about
what. Okay. I see where this is. I see what the
Yes. So you are now in prison, and you've been assaulted. You are imprisoned for stealing a phone. That's the charge. But so in prison now, these people want to come and visit you. So those who want to come and visit you, they come and visit you. They bring relatives, and among them is your wife
and the child.
And the child. But the wife tells you, don't tell them about Eki. Quiet. Echama cha Eki chitereke. Meanwhile, prisoners has picked. So they check the recording, and among the people in the delegation who came, there is the woman. The woman purports to be a mother, to be a wife and a mother, and it says, no, asks. Did they ask you about Eki? Yes, they haven't. When they ask you about Eki, don't reveal. Now, then, so you ask. The group they brought in a woman with a child, and the woman is the wife. Then you now go to check, carry out an investigation. Is this a wife? You go to check, is not a wife. The baby it belongs to, is purported to belong to be the other person. You go to check the DNA, they are not. So who is this woman?
Person of interest now.
You get what I mean? So now, so now you notice that the other ones you picked on air are running this group. You already have connection. You can't prove it in court because you will have to show society how you are intercepting. So you do not want. So you now maintain them on the other one.
Right.
So therefore, but they may later ask you about Eki, the meaning of Eki, or they may not ask you because
they've probably deciphered it all.
They are not yet sure that the other group has picked interest.
Yes.
Or they don't want to show the other group that they are intercepting their communication and therefore are interested in their codes. So there are a lot of operations that go on, and the Ed Mutwez and that gang is involved in clandestine operations that are extremely very heavy. What puzzled me the other day, continues to puzzle me, is why he is open about it.
Who is open?
Chagurani.
Okay.
Yes. That's why you see I've had a number of theories. Is he working for Museveni and security, and therefore he's exposing these guys to danger? Is he unconscious? Is he stupid? Or is simply deliberate, but he's trying to create a certain situation, i.e. push Museveni into the operations he's doing, because like you know, on the side of human rights, Museveni is fixed.
Yes.
That moral bar is losing.
Yes.
In other words, they've pushed him into a corner to abuse human rights. But if you have Eki and you picked him in a cell that you want to break down, to decipher, to pick, to decode, you cannot use conventional methods.
Use unconventional methods, yes.
It is inevitable. Because you see, the one who does interrogation the one who is asking questions is not the one who is doing analysis.
Someone else is doing the analysis.
Yes, is monitoring. But this one will ask you, what do you mean by X3? Or he may play the voice.
Yes.
He may play the voice of which was intercepted on the radio. X3 Masaka Rabadaba. Then here, now the guy asks you, do you know that person? But meanwhile, someone is looking at you to see how you behave, whether you are shocked or what.
All right.
Then he prays your voice. What did you mean when you said X that rhymes with this? Now tell us, what do you mean by this? He says, I don't know. You might right side see. So now some boys now decided to work on you.
To calm you down.
Because with we are so weak. If you are not yet very well trained, there are those guys who are very trained. But if you are not very, very well trained, we are so weak that we give in to pain inflicted on our bodies.
Very quickly.
Yes, we may. There are some who are very hardened, that you break them using other methods. So, but there are conventions against torture, because normally people here, you always rush to misunderstand Rumshana. Because you want to be told what you want to hear. Not what you ought to hear.
All right, yes.
Yes, so that was a model of interrogation.
Okay.
It is being, I think, phased out or banned or condemned. There are conventions against torture.
It, yes.
Fine, but I can tell you the limitations.
Yes.
The limitations of intelligence officers, because now you are not, you are extracting information from missing gaps. You already have the information
from a suspect,
but there are gaps that are missing. Okay. So in the case of Eddie, I'm not so much interested in what was done to him. To me, that's secondary. Okay. I'm interested in the questions that were posed to him.
Okay.
That's one. Then two, Muhoozi Kainerugaba has studied the dynamics of the energy of this society, mainly your group that is on social media, because you are very hyper. So he's studied you.
Or excitable.
No, yes, he's excited you. So if he says we have him, he's running Runyankore. He is very sure all of you will go for it.
Doesn't that then you are toiling against certain lines?
And you see here there are energies, there are centers of energy.
Yes.
On that group on social media. One is sex. If you bring in something to do with sex,
of course people will respond. Yes.
Yes. Actually, it's so far the most leading.
Yes.
But if you say there is a disease, wash your hands,
no one
can't go viral.
No, yeah.
But you put those kind of things, they have leaked or what, there is a lot of interest. Why? Because society is so weak. Mainly that society on these platforms is so weak. Now, there are other things that move very fast and things that relate to what generates anger.
Okay, yes.
Material that generates love is slow.
Yes.
Basically, it can't even go. But material that generates anger is quick. And what generates anger is what normally is what relates to our identities. Because we are so weak that anything to do with our identity, we lose it. So he is studied those fault lines. So if you want to divert society here, more especially society to do with those gangsters, provoke their identity. To do with Uganda or what, just provoke them. So I have him in the basement, because there are two terms. One is the basement, and two, what is happening in the basement.
I am teaching him.
Yes, to Nyanko. The moment you do that, then all their energy
is directed.
Now, if you go and check, if you carried out a study now, out of 10 of those so-called activists who know that the West people were released, they may not be more than 1%.
No one has, when you go and look at it, very few actually have posted about it or talked about it.
Absolutely. But you see, the other one is much more, that you pick people from Kenya, you charge them with treason and terrorism, you release them, and it's not an issue.
It's not, you can't even sell it. It's not an issue to what have you been advocating for at the end of the day then? If you can't even celebrate this that has happened.
Yes. That Chaguran has gone with a baby and some woman to prison overshadows Nanda Ramafabi speaking of papers. But you see, Nanda Ramafabi is a significant opponent of Museveni. More especially in Bugisu. Because if they are battling Museveni, even if they are divided, and you say, this guy of Masaka, concentrated on Masaka, Mpuga, Nanda Ramafabi, concentrated on Bugisu, you see, it's a milestone. They are moving on him. But Nandra Mafabi now can't pick.
Because of this.
Because you now will be on Edumutwe. Or you will be on Mpuga, is the one who killed. Who is this guy of this guy? This MP of Kawempe. Segirinya. So the centers of energy. Some Mhozi picked it well. There is a story Mhozi doesn't want you to pick. There is a story Mhozi doesn't want you to follow. Because if you follow it, you will panic. Society can even start going, can even start running. And yet you want to take Edumute on trivia, beating a journalist. So therefore you divert society to converse. You are teaching him Nyankore. But above all, basement is an elevated term.
For what?
If you read about the Pol Pots in Cambodia, brother number 1, number 2, number 3, if you read about those stories, the question of the basement, even Amini that I was at basement, the basement of Nakasero, the basement, but that's not for your usual TikTokers. So therefore, Mhozi was not communicating
to the TikTokers and all ex-people.
Now then removing a beard is also another code. They are not for. So in other words, you see, it's elevated communication
through.
But question is, whom is he communicating to? Whom is he giving a message? In other words, like saying, yes, what you were building, now no, I have made a breakthrough. Wow. And when you see that, then you now know it's going to be a turnaround. Because I don't want to think that Mhozi had just picked Eddie.
Only.
No, had just, in other words, meaning that picking as in intercepting intelligence.
Because there were 5 others that they had, there were 4 others.
No, I'm talking about surveillance. You see, by the time they arrest, arresting is the final leg. But by the time they arrest you, they will have done surveillance, they will have studied you. So in other words, here we now see and confirm Mhozi is interested in Eddie, and largely it is to do with absolutely it's to do with the security. We will get it. But by the time when you see that happen, then it means you are going to see actions.
Okay. To follow that up.
From both sides.
Yes.
Because the other side has been building something.
And now they have landed.
So the moment you bust them, then they have to go to another stage. They have to go to another phase. And I think they've reached that stage. We may see chaos on the ground. We may see deaths. We may see which other term can I use? The attempt to lift up the uprise, and then the operation is to suppress it, so that will result in 2 deaths. So in other words, I'm looking at a trajectory of elevated violence, of extreme violence.
That is quite scary.
It normally happens when the moment you burst into leaderships.
Then the other people automatically react.
Now they have to act.
Yes. And so also that means that they should be preparation.
So it depends on the level of deployment of this guy.
Okay.
At what level of deployment was he? But when you see Mhozi come in, then it means he was at a higher level. Yes.
Wow. Well, this is how we put analysis to the issues that you see happening, and we dive deeper into what is what is happening in our lives, but also in our societies. So really, this is a call for you not to just take things at face value, but to be able to interrogate a few of these issues. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back as we dive into the conversation this evening. Stay tuned to Spirit TV. This is The Truth, Lies, and Politics.
The truth, the lies, Politics. Informative, educative, and analytical. Getting to the real issues that affect an ordinary individual in areas of leadership, governance, social, and economy. The truth, the lies, and